sana. This is the 21st of May and people are still celebrating. We're still happy. But amesema we're not coming down
any soon. We're not cooling down any soon.
We're not cooling down any soon.
In fact, it's getting hotter. It will get hotter.
Arsenal fans are still dancing. I'm looking at a letter from Mozambique where the government has actually come out to clarify that there is no holiday for Arsenal fans. No, there's no holiday because watu walikuwa shajipatia holiday. Karibu sana, this is TV47 Breakfast. My name is Fred Indemoli as we continue celebrating the win by the great Arsenal. By the Mutati.
Watatihi. My name is Annie Odida. Karibu sana. This is TV47 Breakfast once again and I am an Arsenal fan. Rudia pia wewe?
I'm an Arsenal fan as well.
Yes. Na jana nilikuwa umesema Mozambique walisema there's no holiday.
Yes.
Tutarudia tena, director is complaining. We are Arsenal fans.
We are indeed Arsenal fans.
Kabisa.
Na tutaendelea hivi for the next 1 year until they get a new champion. Itabidi muelewe.
Kama una complain utatuambia nyinyi mlishinda ligi lini mwisho. Sisi tulishinda yesterday, 24 hours ago. Sasa nilikuwa naona watu social media wanasema that any HR akiona employees wana walk around the company with Arsenal jerseys that they should be sent back at home. That one will not tolerate.
Hata hiyo ni sawa. Hiyo ni holiday. Hiyo ni kama kutupea holiday kama mafans wasa.
Interesting. Today being the 21st day of March, it is International Tea Day, right? Tafuta chai ukunywa hata kama ni strungi, mimi ni wa strungi. Do you love tea or coffee? Tea. Nice. So it's International Tea. Awe kama Mluya, that is obvious.
Chai lazima.
Why was I even asking? It's also World Day for Cultural Diversity, for Dialogue and Development. And this, wacha niwaambie ni ya kufanya nini, it celebrates the richness of global cultures and the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. Right, now ukunywe chai. All right,
meanwhile locally a lot of discussion around the fuel prices still continuing. Wengine wanasema there was betrayal kwa hiyo strike ya matatus. Whether or not you believe there was betrayal, that's a discussion that continues. Plus jana tulikuwa na town hall with the CS Treasury. If you did not know anything about the finance bill of 2026, yesterday was a proper chance for you. We'll be sharing some excerpts from that town hall meeting that took place at the University of Nairobi. CS John Badi was there with our very own Sheila Chelangat. Kauliza maswali zile walifaa kuuliza na zikajibiwa zote. Now at least you know where to refer. If you did not watch it, you can get all those clips on our YouTube page. That's TV47 Kenya. You get all the answers that you need to know about finance bills. Sababu najua wengi wenyu hamjasoma. Na ukumbuke bado kuna budget estimates yenye nakuja before that gives way to the appropriations bill na hiyo maneno yote. Tuko deep in discussions about the budget proposals and the budget process. So this is some of the discussions we'll be having later today, and you can be part of that conversation as well through our social media pages. TV47 Kenya on YouTube once again, where we'll be streaming live. TV47 Kenya on Instagram. It's the same on Facebook. On Twitter or X if you like, it's TV47 Digital.
Absolutely.
Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast. You can tag me as well at Fred Indemoli.
My handle is at Annie_Dida. The hashtag pia story ni yetu. I think that was a very, very good session. And for even the Treasury CS making time for us as TV47 and for Kenyans as well to interact with everything around finance bill.
Yes. Na wale watu nyao kwa na time ya kusoma. If you watch that whole, because all the videos are there on our YouTube page, if you watch it, you get to understand a lot.
Kabisa. And it's interesting because even the first question was asking him to summarize what the finance bill is all about. And I believe he did in a way that will just give you details if at all you haven't interacted with the bill. But it is important that you read it for yourself because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation that imekuwa around that finance bill as a whole. And everything was demystified yesterday.
Unajua watu wengi wana confuse hiyo maneno ya finance bill, budget, nini. Wacha tu nijaribu kuclarify kidogo hapa. Kuko na budget estimates which are presented by the CS Treasury. Ishakuwa presented to Parliament, but hiyo ndio ile anakuja ni kama anasoma. No, those are budget estimates. It includes estimates on revenue, estimates on what they plan to do with the money. But after that, now there's once it's passed, it gives it to the appropriations bill, which allows government to actually withdraw money from the consolidated fund to actually do those things. Then there's a finance bill that we're discussing, which brings together the measures for taxation and duty to raise that revenue. So you need to understand all these things. Ndio ujue usipige tu kelele reject na ujue na reject nini. Yeah. So watch those videos. You learn a lot more. Kwanza
kuna moja wamekuwa ki-reject, lakini hiyo haiko. You remember the 5% on mitumba? Hiyo haiko even in the green, that's how they call it, the green document, the final one, the final finance bill proposal.
Yes.
That 5% tax proposal on the mitumba is not even there because members of parliament asked that itolewe in the meantime. But CS clarified about it. Alisema ye mwenyewe anaitaka, lakini haiko.
So it was among the proposals, but has since been removed.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably if you don't follow the process, you might not know.
Yeah.
Unaweza kasirika ati hiyo watoe na maybe atilishatolewa.
Yes. All right, these are just some of the conversations that we'll be having tunaendelea, from the town hall itself, physically. Social spheres itaendelea this conversation. So let's take a look at the state of the weather at this point. All right, we start off in Mombasa. It's a sunny day today. This morning is 24 degrees. Highs of 31 degrees is expected in Mombasa County today. As in Gishu, there will be scattered thunderstorms. This morning it's 13 degrees, highs of 24 degrees. Kitui, it's also a partly sunny day. This morning it's 18 degrees. Highs of 28 degrees will be expected today in Kitui County. We take a look at Mandera. It's a sunny day. This morning it's 26 degrees. It's very hot. Highs of 36 degrees in Mandera today. In Nyamira, there will be thunders and showers. 15 degrees this morning, highs of 23 degrees. And Nairobi, there will be light rains later on in the day. This morning is 16 degrees, highs of 25 degrees expected today. And that's the state of the weather. Ile jua iliwaka jana Nairobi, we need that rains today. Yeah. Usikia hiyo jua?
Nilisikia kidogo tu, but you see, nafikiri watu wamezoea because now we are walking more. So we are feeling the vagaries of the weather a bit more. Mvua direct, jua because you are actually on the road kutembea.
Watu wanatembea?
Yeah, because we can't afford to pay bus fare or fuel our cars.
I see what you did there. Yeah. Kwani kitambo hakukuwa na joto?
No, but you see, ukipanda matatu utaungua na jua saa ngapi? Ama if you're driving your car. You won't. Lakini if you're walking, kukinyeshwa na nyeshewa, jua ikiwake na kuchoma.
Okay. Interesting. Lakini it will likely rain today in Nairobi. We really do need it. Kisumu pia nasikia kumewaka zaidi. Lakini Kisumu hiyo inakuanganisha, but now it's worse.
All right.
Tuangalie quote of the day. Without questioning our choices, beliefs, and actions, life loses meaning. True fulfillment arises from self-reflection, conscious growth, and understanding our purpose in this world.
You have to question your choices. Si kwenda tu fwa.
Yes. Hata hiyo finance bill pia si kwe tu wa kureject. You remember how we said, question your choices as far as finance bill is concerned.
With some level of understanding kwanza. Yes.
It's also debate season, public participation. Inaisha 25th of May.
Hiyo ni ile memorandum wali invite ya finance bill. Inaisha on Monday next week.
25th, sindio?
25th, yes.
Ona sasa deadline inaisha and you have
but at least now they have a better understanding of what it is after that town hall. So there's still time to present your memoranda to Parliament.
Right. Sawa. Let's come back and take a look at the local and regional dailies in depth.
So the main discussion, yes, is about fuel prices and what we should do going forward. But magazeti leo ni kama zimehama. Wanaongelea mambo ingine. What may have happened behind the scenes. I'm just trying to work with technology here so it's easier for me as well. So we start off with the Standard, which talks about something totally different, but still linked to the fuel crisis. Where was the Deputy President? That's the question. Deputy in name, they ask. In the middle of a paralyzing fuel crisis, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki cut the image of a man watching events from the political sidelines rather than an acting head of state, because the president, his boss, was away. Yeah. So who takes charge when the president is away? It should be the deputy president. Question is, where was he? Is he just a deputy in name? Nasikia alikuwa Tharaka Nithi akiangalia mabarabara.
Yes. Umeuliza where is he, and that is what I was going to tell you, was in Tharaka Nithi. As
President William Ruto traveled through Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, Kenya appeared to be running on autopilot, while cabinet secretaries and even blogger Dennis Itumbi he actually has made a video akasema, sasa kama Mungu amenifikisha hapa nifanye nini? Yeah. While cabinet secretaries and even blogger Dennis Itumbi took charge of crisis meetings in Nairobi, Kindiki was inspecting roads in Tharaka Nithi, surely. The DP's glaring absence has now raised questions on whether he's being deliberately locked out of the center of power, or whether he melted. He melted when the heat of national decision making became too intense. Because let me tell you, you may say that probably he's not the one who he hajaelewa kazi yake, lakini let me tell you how government works. Jamaa anakaanga amenyamaza sana kila wakati. Why is this so quiet now? Something like that. Yeah. Why wasn't he at the center? Why wasn't he the one leading and saying, okay, fine, tumeketi na watu wa matatu na tumefika kwa hii conclusion?
He was actually tweeting about it.
Oh, really? We expect the deputy president to just be tweeting about it?
Well, sasa what will we do if that is what he was doing?
Najua watu siku hizi wana mchezo mbaya sana. Watu waliingia na mobile phones kwa hiyo mkutano. Yes. Itumbi akiongea hapo wanamrecord tu. Watu wakasirika sana wakasema surely. And then the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua, when he addressed, he made this video on YouTube. Akasema, the country has been left to bloggers. Akasema ati Itumbi, a class 2 dropout and a class 6 dropout are the ones who are running the country now.
Ouch.
But where was the deputy president? That's a question. Is he just a deputy in name? That's the front page of the Standard today. Tuangazie uko ndani tuone, because I'm sure there are other headlines linked to the fuel crisis, but kwa front page hakuna story nyingine. Kindiki's absence during fuel crisis raises questions on his leadership. That's a big story on page 4.
Tukiuliza Monday alikuwa wapi?
Lakini the most interesting away, how transporters strike demos through more fuel to ethnic flames. Kuna wale wanasema hii ni ya watu wa mlima, lakini kwani watu wa Kakamega hawajapata hiyo nini? Ama wanalipa less?
Hebu watuambie
hiyo, na hiyo ni masuala ya chama. Now, go to page 6 of the Standard. Listen to this. High Court grants teenagers green light to engage in consensual sex.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very controversial issue, but there are some 3 teenagers who were taken to court kasemekana they were engaging in these things. Lakini unajua there's the law on defilement. If you engage in intercourse with someone under the age of 18, you'll just be taken to court for defilement. Wanasema, what if hiyo nini imekuwa imbalance sana, it affects a lot of the boys and girls. So if a parent finds out that his or her daughter has been engaging in such activities with a boy somewhere, usually if you go to court, the boy ends up getting punished more often than not.
Really?
And inasemekana there are quite a number of Kenyan youth or young teenagers who are behind bars because of this. Now, one of the judges has said, no, that should not be the case. If at all it was consensual between 2 minors.
Yes, 17 years and below.
Between 2 minors. That's so they say, because kama uko over 18, this one does not apply to you. If one of you is over 18, that is straight defilement.
Yes.
But if they're both minors, then wanasema don't approach it the same way. But now there's a split. The judges are split on age of consent and punishment. So who should be punished for having consensual sex? At what age? My understanding of defilement ni one of them is an adult, the other one is a minor.
Kabisa.
But if they're both minors, okay. Lakini headline inatishia sana ati High Court grants teenagers green light to engage in consensual sex. That could be a bit misleading though.
It is. I feel like it is, because ideally, for me, what I read earlier, because I saw that ruling yesterday, it said that criminalization of consensual sex between minors is unconstitutional. So criminalization of consensual sex between minors,
which is different from the court saying go ahead, or ye go forth and do this. No, that's not what the quote is saying.
Yeah.
So that headline, yes, it's interesting, but I think it's a bit misleading if you ask me. That's page 6.
You know, I actually love that the Standard also captured this story here. Some time back, some activists were arguing that unajua wakiweka this thing as defilement as a whole, even when minors are involved, then it locks them out of reproductive health systems and of course support.
Yes.
Because sasa they won't be going to the hospitals.
Okay, boy, you're below 18. Why are you coming for these contraceptives? Yes. Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
That's on page 6 and 7 of the Standard, away from matters fuel. Lakini back page, this is where the main highlight is. Wanasema 5 factors in Arsenal's Premier League win. A total of 18 goals from corners. Yes, set piece FC ni sawa. 53 points against bottom half teams. 238 days spent on top of the table. 238. Yeah. 14 goals from Victor Gyökeres. Yeah. 8 Arsenal's 1-0 wins. There's just some of the statistics, very interesting there on the back page of the Standard. And David Raya for me, page 40 of the Standard. Lakini unajua yote ya Arsenal imekuwa covered. The entire sports section of the Standard, it's only one page wameka Julius Yego. Lakini ukienda page 38 celebrations. Wewe some beautiful Arsenal fans there. Hawa ni wa Gor Mahia. Lakini wengine wanakaa ni kama Arsenal. Page 39. For Arsenal, the time is right and the Lord has made it happen. Yes, the Lord has made it happen.
Kabisa. This is going to be a beautiful year for Arsenal fans.
Watabidi wakubali.
Yes.
Itabidi tumkubali. Mutati.
Kabisa.
The Standard.
Tuangalie Daily Nation now. Fuel, our demands. Now, ultimatum, the 7-day countdown is on, but state officials are awaiting President Ruto's return to start key talks. The ultimatums and demands are here that reduce pump prices. They say that even though the state announced a 10 shillings price cut for diesel on Monday, public transport sector's operators say this is not enough. Seek further drops. Disband EPRA is the next one. The leaders of key groups want President William Ruto to scrap the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority and liberalize oil and energy sector. Okay.
You know why? And I agree to some extent. Fine, too much regulation of sectors has brought this problem. In Uganda, they don't regulate the fuel prices. It's up to the liberal market. So if at all one outlet decides to lower the fuel price to whatever, they can do it. If they decide that they are going to sell it for this price, they are allowed to do it. Now in Kenya, we are regulating. But what is the role of EPRA? Because it is an authority and the only authority allowed to set fuel prices. But umesikia wakiongea kila siku ni CS ama president ama nani. So why do we have an authority to regulate fuel prices if it's back to the executive?
Because you're saying EPRA, usually they never have a say on this.
They are the ones who tell us yani kazi yao ni kuja tu kutuambia katikati ya mwezi tumeongeza fuel.
So ni kama mtu ndiye ana play the middle part.
They are not even an authority if you ask me. But what the sector players are saying is just liberalize the market. Watch our demand forces ndio zitadetermine fuel prices.
I feel like Kenyans were not that disciplined to be able to achieve that, as you say Ugandans are doing, because you already saw that time when we were not even having, a crisis as of yet back then. But then we were seeing these guys already hoarding fuel,
Yes.
Sasa imagine if they liberalize this market, and then waache nyinyi sasa mkue mkiprice mafuta the way you guys want. Kenyans,
but you see,
will overprice this thing.
No, because there are those who will say, okay, fine, we already have fuel. There's no reason to hoard because we do not expect at the prices to go down. So you just sell. Competition comes into play because if you go to 2 different supermarkets, they have to compete. And so kama wale wana offer, unaenda kule mwenye kuna offer. So it would actually work.
Hawa watu watawauzia mafuta at 500 Kenyan shillings.
Over regulation of this sector.
Liter.
Do you agree that probably we should stop regulating the prices of fuel? Tuachie tu markets waseme vile wanataka.
Hiyo tuambie kwa comments. And traffic police bribes. Matatu operators have asked the authorities to clamp down on the sanctioned collection of bribes by police officers on roads across the country.
One tukiwa tu ambitious.
Yes.
Kuna vitu zingine unaona zikiisha kweli.
Hapo kwanza ni kukua tu ambitious ukweli, because back then they said that bribes ni kununua nini? Fuel. Nakumbuka?
Wananunulia askari mafuta.
Mafuta, yes. It's a CS interior.
We are not encouraging bribery though.
All right, that is the main headline on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Our demands. These are who are these guys? Petroleum products users, led by Rig Owners Association Chairman Cornelius Chepsoi. Nilikuwa naangalia nione kama with all due respect atakuwa hapa mbele, but hayuko leo. The ones we lost, right groups say 12 killed in protests. That's another story captured on page 4. And across Nairobi and other parts of the country, families are mourning their loved ones killed during the protests against high fuel prices. On the top strip, why petitioners want Adan out of top KRA job. That the litigants in the two separate petitions argue that former Cabinet Secretary Adan Mohamed, who is 62 years old, is beyond the mandatory public service retirement age of 60, rendering his 3-year appointment as Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General unconstitutional, illegal and void. Nimeona hizi conversations sana online. Ati mtu alikuwa employed after 60 years of age. Now sasa hawezi retire because ako past retirement age.
So akiandikwa hapo hakuna mahali utawaambia niliandikwa after retirement.
Huwezi mwambia?
Yeah, there's no second retirement.
Hakuna. Yeah, so this is what this case is about. It's on page 8. Arsenal fans in a frenzy after title drought ends.
Oh yes.
Title drought, sawa. Tumekubali lakini bado sisi ni
Kiburi
winners.
FC, yeah? Pro Max.
That's the Daily Nation.
All right. People Daily steers clear of matters fuel prices and that discussion around that. It goes purely political. Gachagua for president, they ask, as allies ignite opposition power struggle. Ule Senator wa Nyandarua, John Medho, amesema Gachagua tosha. He controls the votes in Mount Kenya, and according to his arithmetic, there's a lot of voters there. According to him, he says that's 5 million. So why, and he asked the question, why should someone who's controlling 5 million votes deputize someone who has probably 2 million? Why? Well, that's a question. LSK chairperson, LSK President Charles Kanjama has also chimed into this and said about the court case currently ongoing that until everything is exhausted, then that this impeachment could still allow, or at least his challenge on his impeachment could allow him, Rigathi Gachagua, to run for president. I do not know. That is a story there on page 7 and 8 of this paper. Teachers left paying as audit questions. TSC 53 billion shillings. TSC hawana pesa kwanza, na hii sasa ni insurance scheme imeleta shida. Ruto's promises versus reality, why critics say Kenyans feel betrayed, is another story on page 6. Because of time, allow me to take a look at the Star also, because it's the same story. Unity test for opposition as Rigathi flexes Mount Kenya might. It's the same story. The tyranny of numbers that they're now saying, hey, even within the united opposition, DCP probably controls a majority of... and this is what they believe, that DCP and Rigathi Gachagua control a lot of the votes in Mount Kenya, and that's why he should be. This is, and I think they're still quoting John Medhu, his ally, has asked core principals to back his presidential bid. Another story there, family of slain singer demands justice. This is Rachel Wandeto, who was brutally...
murdered. Sema tu hivyo.
Was murdered, yeah. Yeah, she was lit ablaze, leading to her death. Very unfortunate. That's the other story there. Of course, Arsenal pale juu. How Arteta gave Arsenal their first Premier League title in over 20 years. Yes. All right. Lakini kuna swali hapa kuhusu hiyo fuel prices na vile hiyo kitu ilikuwa suspended. Presidents knew Mr. Fix-It, ni nani huyo? How Sakaja helped to broker fuel deal? What people are asking, Sakaja alitokea wapi kwa hiki?
Yes.
Yeah. Who is he in this whole? We would have expected the deputy president,
right? The
CSs, Sakaja. Anyway, that's the question they're asking.
It's also raising questions sababu, you know, there are other counties.
Yes.
Kisumu, Kakamega,
it was not a Nairobi problem.
Kabisa. Yeah. So
interesting.
A lot of questions around that.
All right. You do have another
Taifa Leo.
Taifa Leo.
Masharti makali ya matatu. Muda wa kusitishwa kwa mgomo wa sekta ya matatu kwa wiki moja unazidi kuyoyoma, huku shinikizo zikiongezeka kwa serikali kutafuta suluhu ya kudumu kabla ya Jumanne ijayo ili kuzuia maandamano. Wataka EPRA ivunjwe, polisi wa trafiki wasidai hongo barabarani. Habari hiyo tumezungumzia. There's an interesting story here on the front page of Taifa Leo. Hapo chini, mbunge kumlipa mfanyakazi shilingi milioni 1. Huyu ni mbunge yupi? Linet Toto Chepkorir anafaa kumlipa aliyekuwa mfanyakazi wake shilingi milioni 1 kwa kumfuta kazi kinyume cha sheria. Wow. Imagine unakuwa milionea hivyo tu. Yes. Peleka watu koti. Inasema hapa, wacha nikusomee. That mahakama ya ajira na leba imeagiza mwakilishi wa wanawake Bomet Linet Toto kumlipa aliyekuwa mfanyakazi wake karibu shilingi milioni 1 kwa kufutwa kazi kinyume cha sheria, huku kukiwa na madai kwamba mume wa mbunge huyo alichochea mfanyakazi huyo kufutwa kazi. Acha tuendelee. Hiyo, that is interesting. Mahakama aliamua kuwa Kipkurui Dominic Mutai hakutendewa haki alipofutwa kazi kama naibu meneja wa kaunti katika ofisi ya B Toto baada ya kuzuiwa kuingia katika afisi ya bunge bila notisi. Yes. Idara yaonya kuhusu upepo. Idara ya utabiri wa hali ya hewa yatoa tahadhari kuhusu upepo mkali pwani na kaskazini mashariki. Iran sasa yatishia kushambulia USA. Ni habari nyingine katika ukurasa wa 8. Arsenal pia tuko hapo mbele. Hoye. Keep dominating the front pages. Jana ni kama mkutupatia coverage inayofaa, lakini today we appreciate you Taifa Leo for the good job that you do.
Turudie wamesema nini? Arsenal
hoye. Kabisa. Nice. Taifa Leo pia nyinyi hoye kwa kufanya hii kazi safi. Yes, we are Arsenal fans.
Yes, sisi kama Arsenal.
Kabisa.
Business Day.
Taifa Leo. Business Day linazungumzia how KRA will tax 60% of undeclared dividends. It's a story captured on page 3. State splashes over 1 trillion shillings on office supplies. That's another story. Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kipto yuko hapa mbele pia, and this story is on page 4. On the ticker, relief for investors as East Africa cables returns to Nairobi bows. And KCB posts 11% profit growth to 18 billion shillings profit in Q1. And that's the Business Daily.
All right, let's go straight to Daily Monitor, which is one of the newspapers in Uganda. And the Daily Monitor talks about the Grand Master following his inauguration for a 7th term. President Museveni's long stay in power, according to multiple sources close to him, hinges on strategic planning, patience, a gift of discernment, alliance mutations, and a firm grip over a strong army that he has built from a ragtag guerrilla outfit. A lot of coverage on pages 2 and 3 of this. Pale juu, Parliament staff face arrest as more among cars are taken. Kwani alikuwa na gari ngapi? Angalia na wameka picha mingi hapo za magari. Kuna moja ilikuwa Rolls Royce, magari yake yote imechukuliwa.
Oh, wow. Alifanya nini? That's the question.
Alikosana na rais.
Alifanya nini alikosana?
See, maybe she tried to declare her interest to succeed them. Maybe, I don't know. Among probe sacks in Electoral Commission and Judiciary, that's the new vision. Now, the new vision still in Uganda ni magari ya Speaker Anita Among anachukuliwa tu.
Yeah.
But imagine alikuwa na Rolls Royce. We're talking about the other paper, New Vision. Among probe sacks Electoral Commission and Judiciary, more luxury vehicles of the former speaker seized. Uko tu ni Among. For the entire week wamekuwa tu ni Among na magari yake, Among na magari yake.
Yeah.
Pale juu kuna story ya Chameleon, the artist. And him and his wife Daniela have agreed to separate over desertion. It's an interesting story there. In Tanzania, tunazungumzia nini kule Tanzania leo? The Citizen. Government now turns to bonds to finance key road projects, but an even more interesting story, Dar women's lives at risk amid clandestine abortion network. Nasikia watu wengi sana wanakufa hidden abortion network in Dar es Salaam. Yes. Gazeti la Mwananchi, habari hiyo hiyo, mtandao hatari Dar ni wa utoaji mimba kwenye nyumba za kupanga maduka ya dawa. Yani you walk into a pharmacy and procure an abortion.
Imagine.
Ama kuna mtu ako tu kwa nyumba rental mahali anaingia ka 1 bedroom house hivi. Unaingia uko unatoa mimba.
Unajua hiyo iko hadi Kenya?
Yeah. Sasa ni crisis kule. There's a whole network in Dar es Salaam. Yeah. Wengine upata huduma kwa ujumbe wa simu na WhatsApp. Naambua, je, unataka kutoa mimba? Kuavya mimba? Kuja. Gazeti la Mwananchi. Let's take a look at the cartoons today. We start off with the one on the Standard. Hari siku hizi wiki yote ni cartoonist Hari ndio yuko kwa Standard. Amechora mtu hapa, lakini Hari kama akimchora lazima andike jina yake ndio tujue nani. Sasa huyu ni Sifuna. A caricature of Sifuna akona ka flag anakimbia anasema I will find my way to others of like minds. Like minds ni wenye wanasema kama yeye.
Hiyo kitu.
Hiyo kenye wanasema.
The Star, Flying Spar. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua alisema hiyo inaitwaje flight ama ndege. Yes, hiyo ndege ya rais iko na massage spa hapo ndani.
Hapo ndani. But it reminds me of another discussion he had a few years back when President William Ruto was deputy president immediately after they took over in 2013. So they were doing trips to South Africa and other African nations. Alafu kuna ndege alitumia, it was quite expensive then, na akaenda na some MPs. Alafu ilikuwa inaitwa wakaita Hustler Jet.
Oh yes,
Hustler
I
Jet.
remember.
Wakasema kuna MPs wa pale walikuwa ati wanampatia massage. Walikasirika sana. It was there. It's actually a public record.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So wanaitwa Flying Spa.
Flying Spa. Alionaje? Hata yako na ndege yake ndogo hapo.
Anajua.
All right, that's a cartoon on the Star.
Okay.
The one on the Daily Nation now.
Yes.
It's looking at a border post. Kuna askari ameangalia hapo, lakini askari huyu ni ule CS wa health.
Yes.
Adenduale. Pale lakini Ebola inavuka border, inatoka DR Congo inaingia Kenya.
Yes.
The CS has said that there's been no case of Ebola reported in Kenya yet, but over 130 people have already died in DRC.
Yeah.
And you know this is still a transit route. So magari inatoka Kenya, Mombasa, inaenda DR Congo, na inarudia hapa Kenya. So it's very easy for this virus to get to find its way.
Kabisa. Juu hata iko hapa Uganda, there's a newspaper hapa. Zizi zetu tu ili highlight about it yesterday. So I think they have 2 cases reported there in Uganda.
Yeah. So lakini jamaa wetu kwa border anasema yeye hajaona kitu. Nothing has happened so far as far as Ebola is concerned. So big discussions in Kenya today, of course, the fuel crisis being the biggest, and matters to do with the budget making process, discussions around the budget estimates, the finance bill, and that will form a huge part of our conversation today after the break. Remember to use the hashtag TV47 breakfast on all our social media pages, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, and it's TV47 Digital on X. You can tag me as well at Fred Indimuli.
My handle is at Annie_Dida, and I am an Arsenal fan. See you after the break.
Arsenal.
Yes.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Nikikunywa maji.
Oh my God. You left me.
Nitumie ni line. Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? Hi-Fi?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tangu lini kero umeka kwa beauty product?
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas.
No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Booyah! We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in East and Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Surely.
Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair.
It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This is not a resort, my friend. This is a storage.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47.
I just want to be in the zone.
Nairobi, where the hustle never sleeps and neither do the scammers.
Link Up, we are talking about something that's affecting all of us. We are talking trust.
We're diving into the campus life.
I just want to be in the zone.
Stay fresh, stay safe.
Stay linked up.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Surely.
Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair.
It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This after matatu operators failed to reach an agreement with the government over fuel prices, insisting that prices must be reduced by at least 35 shillings. Economists are now warning that failure by the government to act within 1 week could trigger serious economic challenges. Economic analyst David Kabata says some fuel levies should either be reduced or completely scrapped in order to lower the cost of fuel. He also called on the government to increase fuel subsidies to cushion Kenyans from the rising cost of living. Kiaru Member of Parliament Dindi Nyoro has also tabled several proposals aimed at helping the government reduce fuel prices in the country. The legislator has already presented a motion to Parliament through the Clerk of the National Assembly. In the motion presented before Parliament, the MP wants the government to reduce VAT on fuel to 8%. He has also proposed the removal of the 7 shilling levy introduced in 2024. Nyoro further wants the government to cut the profit margins enjoyed by fuel importers and distributors. The legislator is also proposing an additional 5 billion shillings in fuel subsidies to help cushion Kenyans from high fuel prices. According to him, if the government implements the recommendations, diesel prices could reduce by at least 54 shillings per litre, while petrol could retail at around 187 shillings per litre.
Lakini in the meantime, we have to do a trade-off. Is either we give in to some money and especially subsidy and reduce VAT and RMLF. Either we do that, which is less costly, or then we let the economy move into a crisis
Currently, the landed cost of petrol stands at 117 shillings, while diesel stands at 167 shillings. Fuel remains one of the most heavily taxed commodities in the country, with nearly 9 different taxes and levies imposed on petroleum products, including the road maintenance levy, which stands at 25 shillings per litre of petrol. Other charges include the 8% VAT, the Petroleum Development Levy of 5.4 shillings, the Anti-Adulteration Levy charged at 18 shillings per litre, and the Railway Development Levy, among other taxes. The government now faces an uphill task in controlling fuel prices as many Kenyans continue to grapple with the rising cost of living and the expected increase in prices of essential goods. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Yes, indeed. The biggest discussion this entire week, the fuel crisis, prices of fuel. Yes, people are back on the roads, I can see. Even a quick look at some of the major tributaries into the city. Thika Road, for example, there's traffic at KU heading towards town, Kahawa, Wendani, at the Githurai markets. A bit of ease at Kasarani, but then after that, so you get to Allsops, and there's a long stretch of red, and I'm looking at Google Maps, all the way from KCA University to the Pangani interchange. Meanwhile, the situation is almost the same along Eastern Bypass, Utawala areas next to KQ headquarters, and after Taj Mall heading towards the City Cabanas interchange, quite some traffic as people head towards the city. Mombasa Road all the way to the CBD is looking green today, according to this map. All the way from Gitaru, and that's Wayaki Way on the other side of town, is not bad at all. A bit of traffic on Gong Road, areas like Prestige Plaza and Junction. But yes, definitely, we're back to normalcy after those 2 days of a Matatu strike. But the conversation continues because the prices of fuel still remain high. On the front page of the Daily Nation, these are the demands: reduce pump prices, disband EPRA, and end traffic police bribes. This is from the transporters and Matatu operators, because they're saying, even with the 7-day countdown, there's a lot that they need to talk about. That's why we start our conversation today with Meshak Odede, political analyst. Karibu sana Meshak, and Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's in the handling of this crisis. Kenyans are now discussing the taxes, the taxation imposed on a litre of fuel. As I say, landed cost of petrol in Kenya is 117 shillings per litre. But then there's a 96 shillings imposed on that, bringing the price to 214 shillings. And it would appear everyone now says that is what we need to talk about. But there's a lot of reluctance from the top leadership to have that conversation unless the president is here. And hence the question, why do we have EPRA in the first place? If at all it is an authority that should be setting the prices. If at all they cannot be involved conclusively in these negotiations, we have to wait for the president who's away on duty. Meshak.
Thank you, Fred. I don't want to look at it like that. I think sometimes it's more about language again that is used, because we both know once a bill is assented to, it has to be implemented like that until probably amendment is taken again back to Parliament, and then the president signs a new amendment. Right now, I don't think anybody can prove that there is a new tax that has been imposed since just the other day that the review was done. I think these are taxes that many times we have lived with. The only thing that I think many Kenyans agree on and are asking for is that the situation is dire and the global crisis is bringing a lot of heat even to Kenyans. So as a good leadership, probably it is time to look again into what was existing and see how you can further lower the burden. We also know and are aware that there is 1 or 2 things that government has done since the war broke, and I think they have tried what they needed to do at that time. But Kenyans seems to still want more and feel like they still have a lot they can do to ease the burden. So whether it is about waiting for the president or not, for me is neither here nor there. If that conversation begins, we both know it has to end with the president at some point because a bill was assented to. And so as an executive, they have to agree somehow that we are taking this back to Parliament to amend here and here, and then we sign a new bill or the amendment that will lower the cost.
Why are we not
Kenyans.
having that conversation so far? Why are we, the leadership of the country, even in the absence of the president, we still have the CS, the interior CS, all these people are here, EPRA is here. How come we're not already talking about this?
I actually think that conversation is going on, but the way, just like I said, sometimes language takes a whole context to a different thing. When you say we're waiting for the president, it sounds like there is no one who is having any conversation until the president comes. For me, I think the conversation is going on, but at the end of the day, there will be a consultation even with the president on this. But the way it is said makes it look like it is the president who decides whether we are having a conversation or not. So sometimes, you know, these people are also human. Their language sometimes are getting interpreted a different way.
But Wakili, we've always talked about how this government is run. That yes, we have members in the cabinet, but probably they don't have the leeway to make to take decisive action. We even have the deputy president. According to the Standard, they say he's been absent, he's been missing in this conversation. And it would appear everyone is just waiting for the president. We have an authority that should be doing all this. The proposal by Ndini Nyoro to Parliament is there, but Parliament itself has not seen it fit to even, the Speaker has not seen it fit to recall Parliament to discuss this. Everyone is just talking about waiting for the president.
When it's time to impeach a deputy president, it's lightning speed. When it's for political reasons, without any justification, with all those tags and allegations against a sitting, an elected, a duly elected deputy president. So everything is, pushed and shoved and passed in lightning speed. But when it comes to the interest of Kenyan people, and I'm surprised that Odera is seemingly, and could be wrong, seemingly defending the indefensible, a government that is bent on oppressing the Kenyan people. And it is gotten to a point where the deaths of Kenyan people, the deaths of they who are protesting, because we can see that, it is reported that there are those that died while protesting. And there were reports that, in fact, the police shot live bullets at them. The National Assembly does not exist for the sake of they who populate the National Assembly and the Senate, but to the benefit of the Kenyan people. And that's established in Article 94 of the Constitution. And you have to ask yourself, is this not an emergency to the Kenyan people? Is this not an issue of such urgent need that we need to not just look at the knee-jerk reaction of the buffs in government, the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Interior, and they who met with the public service representatives. To them, it is a problem of an emergent nature. But how about the long term? Will the war that has been going on in Iran, prompted by geopolitics, going to end tomorrow? So you see, this knee-jerk reaction makes you wonder. The National Assembly is supposed to be now convening, because there's an honorable member who has requested that, and the Speaker of the National Assembly ought to deal with that issue. But he hasn't. He hasn't. So the interest of the Kenyan people is secondary, seemingly, to these people, and not to every member of National Assembly, I should say, with tremendous respect, so that I am not misunderstood or misapprehended to be then casting aspersions on them. The impression created is that this is a one-man show government. Mm-hmm. Whenever the president is in need of steering his scheme of things or his agenda in a certain way, he marshals the National Assembly. He marshals the Senate. They are at, as it were, his beck and call. Mm-hmm. So now he's out there, and there are those allegations, and you saw that, he's out there with, enjoying himself in a private jet, and you have to wonder why expend such amount of money, atrocious and abominable. And the Kenyan people are going through this hardship. So the long and the short of it is that EPRA exists, in my view, more as a political entity. Although it is entrenched in the Petroleum Act as the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And by the way, you the motorist, you the road user that buys that fuel, funds EPRA. Mm-hmm. At, I think it should be 25 cents per litre or something like that. But there's that levy charged on every person who buys fuel. And so EPRA is supposed to be, under the Petroleum Act, supposed to be ensuring that all these things are regulated and that we have at least a voice that, deals with this issue. But to answer Meshach right here, I have to wonder, really, when you look at the increment in the sudden lowering of the price of diesel, isn't EPRA somehow mysteriously arrogating itself this legislative power to change the amount of taxes per litre in the diesel recharge? Or, I should ask, when EPRA decides to lower the price per litre of diesel, what are they exactly tinkering with? What exactly is being, adjusted? Mm-hmm. There is opaqueness, there is no transparency, and these are the questions that the members of the National Assembly should be asking, or even summoning EPRA. How can you do this in an arbitrary way? And this is after pressure has been piled on the government through this demonstration. The question is now, okay, you decide to lower the price of diesel, but how about petrol? Why didn't you adjust a shilling of it? And yet, the Kenyan people who drive, petrol-driven vehicles, are equally, in equal measure, affected. So EPRA, in my view, has failed, A. B, it is consuming public funds without results. In other words, we're not getting value for money. And C, it is, as like you say, be disbanded, because then we do not see the functional utility of EPRA.
Because now the question comes to the fact that at least in Kenya there's regulation of fuel prices. In a market like Uganda, it's left to the liberal market. Every outlet now sets a price. Do you think that's a direction we should consider taking? That with this regulation, it would appear that EPRA has just been reduced to coming every month to announce an increase in the fuel prices, and it would appear that they are also just answering to the executive.
Fred, I don't really think a liberal market will serve Kenyan population much better, because we've been there before. There are times when these laws were not there, the EPRAs were not there. Were we ever better? That's the question we need to ask. But I also think Kenyans need to have a much better understanding of what EPRA can do and what EPRA cannot do, because I think Wakili also knows EPRA will definitely calculate the prices based on the landing price and advise on what has gone down and what has gone up, because the number of days that sometimes the vessels take on the sea, the price per barrel at the international market, those are all things that are put together to set the price that we are supposed to be given after every 30 days. But as at now, there are some of those standing laws that are there. If we talk about VAT on fuel at this, can EPRA sit down and say VAT is no longer there? It has to come back to Parliament. It has to be a decision that has to be made by Parliament, and consultation again to the highest level of the executive, because some of these bills actually come as from the executive. We are taking this bill to Parliament so that they can discuss. And our aim as executive is to review this down for Kenyans to get easy prices.
What about the proposal by Ndindi Nyoro? It doesn't necessarily have to come from the executive. This is a member of the National Assembly and has come with this proposal.
The proposal can come even from members of Parliament. And I am backing the proposal of Honorable Ndindi. it already has gone to the Speaker, and we are expecting and hoping that this is where leadership of Parliament should rise, because again, the way our governance is structured, all eyes are looking at the executive, and even sometimes parliamentarians forget that they represent the people, and somehow they should be more in front, even because yes, they can be a CS for energy, for example. But there is a member of parliament I elected to represent me every day. The CS might have just been put there by the president, but the person who should take care of my agenda more than anybody else is my member of parliament. So we should as well, at a time like this, look at the role of parliament and ensure they actually arise to leadership more than anybody
Do you think they've failed so far by failing to recall MPs back who are on recess?
For me, Parliament has always, forget about even the fuel issue alone, Parliament has always been the weak link on most of the challenges that we are having.
All right.
Either because they lie too low to be overshadowed by the executive, or sometimes arise to the things that are not of priority to Kenyans. Like Wakili said, if it is maybe a motion that is talking about impeachment and all that, we never even see members of parliament missing those motions. They will be in the house, full house. But then sometimes when it is a very critical thing, including the finance bill of 2024, we saw some members of parliament missing or even refusing to vote. So if I voted you to come to the house and represent me, and then you refuse to vote, meaning you decided completely not to air my view in the assembly where you should be representing me. So for me, Parliament has always played weak when Kenyans want them to arise to occasion.
Okay. But you ask a very important question. Yeah. The liberalization of the market, which Meshach has not answered to. And for me, it's an issue of grave concern. If we have cheap oil in Nigeria, if we have cheap oil in Angola, or in Mozambique, for instance, why can't we make arrangements to import that oil? The petrol products. Why is it that we have all these levies that are heaped on we, the Kenyan people, without justification? And in the end, the government to government or government to some private entity, corporation, whatever it is, why is it imposed on the Kenyan people? And these are the issues that the members of the National Assembly should be calling the executive to account, or even EPRA. At what point do I question EPRA? Excuse me, why did you levy this amount of money? Partly, and then you see, we are being told, and Meshach sticks with it, that EPRA should be there, fixing these variable prices of fuel per liter for this duration of 1 month. And you ask yourself, okay, so if today the barrel of oil, the crude oil, is being sold at $100 per barrel, tomorrow it falls to 80, I'm stuck with the price of $100 for a month. Yes. And yet, significantly, it's reduced by a huge margin of $20. Or the converse could be the case. And EPRA is very quick when these dealers then hoard the fuel, awaiting the higher price. And so we are at the mercy of our cartel. So when the president says that he's going to disband the cartels, and you could hear during the last regime, and that video is circulating online among Kenyan people until even you hear comments being made by they who are in the executive that why didn't this happen during the Uhuru regime and all of that. I challenge him. You haven't shifted anything. You haven't changed. If anything, you become a personal beneficiary, or they who are your ilk in this G2G arrangement. And the Kenyan people are actually very upset. And going by what the PSV strike demonstrated is that the Kenyan people were willing to go with the PSV strike if and only if it could yield some positive results for them. So I don't have, at a personal level, any capacity to question EPRA. Why are you levying this amount of taxes, given that the crude oil per barrel has fallen? Yeah. In the international, let me finish. In the international market. Whereas if it was a liberal economy, the supplier who is keen on quickly taking advantage of that lowered price is able to supply to me at a lower price. Why can't the individual supplier who probably has access to the Angolan market, an African market, and we keep talking about the African Union, about, the COMESA, about, these are brainwashed people who just harp and talk about the African Union, and we cannot benefit from the Angolan oil that is cheaper. Can you imagine that the Angolan people pay the least amount of money per liter in Africa because they have access to that oil? Why can't we benefit from it? Why is that we have to go to the Middle East? I frankly do not understand why the EPRA should justify for a period of a space of a month when crude oil has fallen. And then I'm being forced to then still accept that EPRA, still fund it, still go on paying more taxes. And someone tells me, we're doing everything that we
liberalize the market.
I still don't agree.
Before we go on.
Yes, I still don't agree with Wakili on liberalizing the market because I know definitely it will create a very imbalanced situation and nobody will be accountable. Because once you liberalize the market, then how do we now account to those who will decide to abuse the market?
Abuse it more.
Yeah, because it is about somebody selling at their own price. Then when I decide to sell higher, and probably on the other side of
supply and demand.
It is supply and demand, yes, but you don't know that we, even as we sit here, everybody has a financial capacity that is different. So I can go to the market on the other side and ensure that I take everything or I take a bigger chunk, and then in the market in our country, I'm the only one with oil. Or we can even bring and let you sell yours while I am blocking the next supply. And then when I remain with mine, I set it wherever I want. So it is dangerous. I still think it is dangerous. But on the proposal of the 30 days, I think it is already somewhere. The conversation is already somewhere. There is a proposal for amendment for EPRA to do this 14 days instead of 30 days because, like he says, it is injustice that you set the price today, then 2 days later the prices have fallen. Then I have to wait for 30 days and all that. So I think it is a conversation the country still needs to have. But liberalizing Wakili, it's going to kill
So Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro has already written to Parliament with his raft of proposals on how fuel prices can be reduced, whether or not the National Assembly will be recalled for a special sitting. They're currently on recess. That we have to wait and see. After the break, we continue this conversation, but we want to ask this question. Where is the Deputy President in all this? Where is he? Yesterday we had a town hall meeting with the CS for Treasury, Honorable Mbadi, and he also gave his answer to some of the proposals as given by Ndindi Nyoro. We'll be talking about that after the break.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning. You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako. Hamna pesa.
I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Ikikunyuma.
Oh my God. You left me.
Nitumie ni line.
Uko nje kuna Wi-Fi.
Why? Hi-Fi? Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea. The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tangulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na Amanda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas.
No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in East and Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV.
All right, welcome back. You're watching TV47 Breakfast with me, Fred Indimuli. I'm still here with Mesha Kodede and Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui, still on that issue of the fuel crisis and the proposals to Parliament towards reducing this. And Wakili, just before we went on a break, you had a question.
Yes, my question is now, the members of the National Assembly ought to ask, I don't know if they'll summon EPRA, or I don't know the Minister for the CS for Energy. That's the person they should be asking. Now, we have Kenyans being charged excise duty, road maintenance levy on every liter of fuel, I should add. Excise duty, road maintenance levy, petroleum development levy, petroleum regulator levy, railway development levy, anti-adulteration levy, which was removed, merchant shipping levy, import declaration fee, value-added tax. I want to ask the members of the National Assembly, can you summon this energy CS and ask him of the road maintenance levy, which is by this particular description ring-fenced as road maintenance levy, not free primary education. It doesn't go to that. I want to ask them so that we as the Kenyan people get a figure. Give us a figure for the petroleum development levy that you have been collecting. And the largest amount of that, the VAT, well, they say they had reduced and they were going to reduce more. I don't know. Let the members of the National Assembly break it down for us, as indeed these taxes are broken down for us for every liter that we buy. Why is that? I don't want to hear that our levies have been securitized without our consent. Some foreign government has given money for which that we do not see the results or that, and this is the funding that, as it were, secured that particular loan that the government got. It is being unfair to the Kenyan people that the members of the National Assembly who are tasked to do that then remain silent, don't want to confront that issue, and do not want to be accountable to the Kenyan people. It is time they became accountable. It is time that they laid on the table and told the Kenyan people that, well, I'm afraid this is the amount of money that was collected as your road maintenance levy. But, and however, we cannot trace a penny of it, so that then we can tell the CS or the Treasury CS, no, you have to go to jail.
All right.
Fred, yes. I want to agree with Wakili to some extent, but it is still coming back to us as Kenyans. The truth is, when we get to 2027 and we are electing members of parliament to go and represent us, none of Kenyans will be talking about the issues Wakili is talking about. We will be looking at CDF and how many schools did you build. Even Ndidi is giving us good proposals.
But the conversation is changing. Yeah, the narrative is changing.
Even now, Ndidi is giving us good proposals, yes, but that is not how the people of Kiaru will judge him. People of Kiaru always will judge him with cabros on CDF, which is probably 100 million in a budget of 4 trillion plus. So even Kenyans need to up the game. Yes, we are allowed, and by law, we are justified to demand everything we are demanding. But we also need to know there is a role that we have to play. We can't just go to election, elect any Tom, Dick, and Harry who have no capacity to do all this. Then we expect so much high in terms of accountability, oversight, representation, and all that. We need to.
So 9 levies imposed on a liter of fuel. Landed liter of fuel or liter of petrol is 117. After all these levies, you add about 96 shillings more, comes to 214. About 64 shillings more for diesel, bringing it to 243 as well. So some of the proposals by Ndini Nyoro is to scrap some of this, probably zero rate VAT on fuel, at least for the short term, and probably introduce a few other, probably a subsidy according to Ndindi Nyoro. But yesterday, CS Mbadi gave his response to some of the proposals by that Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro. Let's listen into what he had to say.
On the issue of Ndindi Nyoro, first of all, tell him, he's saying that we should provide 5 billion to subsidize fuel. Tell him we did that before he said it. We provided 5 billion, and I said it here, and we have now even added another 2.7 billion. The first month, we supplied 6.2 billion. The second month, it was 5. We have already provided 11.2. We are even adding 2.7. So tell him we are at 13.9, way beyond the 5 billion. His 5 billion would leave the prices of fuel very high. In fact, diesel would go to 300. So tell him he's not an expert, if that is this thinking. On VAT exempt, it is easy, very easy to say, put VAT at 0. My friend, let me address you through Sheila.
Yes.
Sheila, the 8% drop in VAT, we lost 12 billion in 1 month. And up to the end of June, we will lose 24 billion already. We are implementing a budget. We are already in May. Almost the entire development budget has been implemented. So you can't cut it. Money must be transferred to counties. I'll tell you, already KRA has a shortfall as we speak. Where are we going to get more money? It is easy to say, remove VAT. That hole, where will we get that money? Do we go and borrow more loans from the domestic market? Because now we cannot negotiate with any external financier to support us. We cannot even go to the external market. The external market today is not existing because of the war in Iran. You can't even get Eurobond today. I don't know whether you're aware of that. So the only option available for us is either to stop paying people's salary up to the end of June, or reduce people's salary, the public servants, those who are in the payroll. We reduce their salary. Or, because that is what is left, we have salary up to June. Can we cut their salary? They will go to court. Number 2, we can go to the domestic market and borrow more. What has Kenyans been saying? What have you been saying? You have been saying, please don't overborrow. So, as we talk of fixing this short-term crisis with measures as removing taxes, let us also think of the consequences. But I'm not saying that cannot be done. That is why I said desperate times call for desperate measures.
Right.
If that is where it will come to, and government will make that decision, so be it, but there will be consequences. And then, on the issue of fuel levy of 7 shillings, you know, Ndindi, my friend Ndindi is becoming just notorious and mischievous. He knows very well that 7 shilling is not there. That 7 shilling has been sold. That 7 shilling has helped us to raise money to restart all the road projects that we are seeing across the country. It is not money that is available to us anymore. It's money that we have used to do the Mau Mau roads. They had stalled. Uhuru Kenyatta left them stalled. The roads in Suba were stalled. The roads, yes, like Stindo. The road in northern Kenya, which was being done, had stalled. The contractors had left the site. All these roads, including in Mombasa, Ndongokundu and the rest, those roads have been restarted and they are going on.
All right.
Now, that money was used to raise money to do these roads. And he's saying that that money should be removed from the field. It is not there. We had sold that right.
All right.
Right, listening to the CS, it would appear that there's still that feeling that we've gotten to the end, that there's nothing we can do. Don't touch those things. Yet that is the only proposal. People are saying, yes, and we need to really look at these 9 different levies. But listening to the CS Treasury, who ideally should be in charge of all this, he says, no, don't dare touch this. So where do we go from here? We still have to wait for the president.
It's ridiculous. Look, Fred, how much money has been spent by this government buying furniture and office stuff. We are being told 1 trillion. 1 trillion. Mamma mia. And some person there is telling me, where are we going to get this money from? It's all been, 7 shillings been in security. It is gone. We didn't have, and then you hear. These are the sort of people that ought to be in jail. With due respect, where is the road maintenance levy going to? If you tell me 1 trillion has been used by the government to buy furniture, and yet we have people who can make excellent furniture over here, and they are importing furniture. So you wonder, really, someone is using 17 billion in State House, and they're using close to 1.5 billion every month for entertainment, holding the political, rallies in State House, and the entertainment that goes with that, and the expenses that go with that. But for them, even for him, the CS himself, show me by example, because Uhuru at some point said that, look, we have to lower the capacity, the CC of these motor vehicles the government functions are using. But for him, he is happy to ride in the fuel guzzler, and he has chase cars that are equally, fuel guzzlers, just like his own. And so this display of opulence has gone on, and even in the face of the hike in fuel prices, they have absolutely no policy to say that we will now cut down on the chase cars, we will reduce the cubic capacity of the vehicles that we use, so that then the Kenyan people at least are spared in terms of these. And what do we see? Even members of the National Assembly, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't attend to their constituents, but still the fuel allowance that they still gain is based on their cubic capacity motor vehicles. And this is probably why the Njoro's proposal is even more pertinent. Let members of the National Assembly congregate and meet, and we, the Kenyan people, also prefer our own propositions to them as a voice of we, the Kenyan people. And your own individual MP should be able to take your opinion, and you should be able to tell them, now look, you people, you should, each one of you, buy yourself a 1500cc motor vehicle to be in a constituency, and you move around in a constituency. But because being a member of the National Assembly is a status symbol, and some of them even leave professions like my own, and they want to be members of the National Assembly, and you wonder your career is not sufficient enough, but it's because of the opulence and the trappings that come with that that attracts them. And one of them is this expenditure of fuel and taxes. So when you hear a whole CS telling you, where are we going to get this money? This is where they're telling you that if you have undeclared dividends, 60% is going to be gobbled up by the government. This is what they are proposing in the finance bill that is out there. So the Kenyan people are being battered and bashed by a totally irresponsible, rogue government. And you wonder, who will be our voice? Who will be our voice?
The problem appears to be an issue of expenditure by this government. Government spending is just abnormally high. We're looking at even a budget of 4.89 trillion shillings, money that we know we do not have. Clearly, there's a problem with even the kind of discussion we're having. We may say that fuel prices, probably the taxes cannot be moved, but the whole budget process is a bit messed up. Don't you agree, Rashid?
I don't want to agree with that, Fred, because we know the budget will always rise. Even our personal budgets, are we the same way we were 10 years ago? Do we still budget for our houses with the same amount we did?
Even when we don't have money?
In 10 years, 10 years back, we must move. It has to move because globally things move like that. So we cannot say, the 10 years that Uhuru was president, was there a time when the budget was reviewed down and we were saying for this financial year, the budget is now 200 billion instead of 1 trillion or whatever? It kept moving, it kept going up, and we never complained. And this is why people now read very funny.
We never complained?
People didn't complain the way they are complaining now.
Budget.
Look at Harrison here talking to us about Uhuru at some point making this proposal. That is when Kibaki was president and Uhuru was made the minister for finance. But when Uhuru was now at the helm of everything, did that even happen?
Why are we talking about Uhuru?
That even, yeah?
Why
we have
an issue here?
No, because we have to find somewhere to compare. When we are now saying this government, it means there was a government somewhere sometimes that was giving us heaven. So we have to actually current. It is current, yes, but against what? Do we want to compare with the government in the US? No, we have to, because we are feeling heat. It means we never felt heat before. We are now feeling heat
how
now.
can you justify?
So I am not justifying.
1 trillion being
I am not justifying, Wakili.
1 trillion.
I am just on your case. When we talk about, because you make it look like when Uhuru was president, actually this was happening.
Who is
No. You are the one who brought Uhuru in this, and I am going on that Uhuru thing. He was president. Those measures that he proposed during the time he was minister was never there. He was never able to implement them. But now he is out there, Ruto is president, you're all of a sudden reminding us of Uhuru.
That was Wakili's assertion. Let me ask the question.
Yeah.
How come it is so difficult to implement these austerity measures, even when we know we don't have money and we are going for a very big budget? Why is it? And I'm not talking about Uhuru Kenyatta or Mwai Kibaki. We as a country, how come austerity measures are so difficult to implement?
Fred, austerity measures sound good, but sometimes they are also not 100% good. Because the people who supplies the newspapers, that's economy. The people who supplies those tea, the people who does this. So if we cut all that, it is no longer there. Then where do they go to work? How do they earn a living? Because sometimes it is easy to just say, cut this, cut that, and then we just cut everything. And there are people in thousands who are actually supplying those things in those government. Government is the biggest spender out here, even for people who do business. Harrison is here, even as a legal practitioner. The law firms are actually paid by government on a lot of things. So if we are going to do austerity measures, we will start even with that. It is not just about those people who supply small things to be cut off as austerity,
so it is not
but he is going to earn millions in legal fees, because we know if we sit down here and audit and say, what amount of this budget will go to legal fees, whether in county government, national government, all departments, you will realize that even 1 trillion will go to legal fees. And we are not talking about that. We are able to say Mama Mboga should not supply Mboga because we are going to...
We are talking about
now we are talking
it's on the
about
table.
Now we're talking about it. And I'm asking, because we are deep in the budget making process, and we'll be looking at budget estimates in a few weeks' time, probably. I think we should have done that by now.
We should, Fred, but the
problem,
question...
Are you saying austerity is not feasible in our situation?
It should be, but it is not 100%. There are things that we can say this and this, we might, but we can't just say everything should be scrapped out.
It was
but
before nothing.
No, but the question is, Fred, do we expect, as Kenyans, do we expect that even when the global prices goes up, everything goes out there, Kenya will remain the same way? At what point, as a member of this nation, as a citizen, do we now say, reduce this up to this we are okay? At what time will we be okay? Every year we will want everything to go down. Every finance bill, we will want everything, nothing to be added in terms of taxes. So Kenya will remain here while the rest of the world are up there because of some natural causes and everything. It is not possible. At what point are we going to have a conversation, Wakili, as a country, and agree that for this particular period, we have to feel the heat? We are part of the world. How are we not part of the world?
That's a conversation.
Isn't that the conversation we should be having? That for this, when we're in a crisis like this, then it calls for serious measures, including austerity, for the short term at least. How come we are saying that that kind of conversation is not feasible now?
That's what the CES was saying. It's not possible, and we cannot engage in it, apparently. Then he's saying, Editorial, please, don't shout yourself a horse, because you see, about the 7 shillings that you're talking about, well, we already mortgaged that, and so, be comfortable with that. Live with. When did the Kenyan people agree to that? And this is what I am saying. Let's have that conversation in Parliament. Let us ask the members of the National Assembly for once. I mean, let's be real. Why? Because the domino effect of these hiked prices of fuel, and I say it on this platform with you, that if you do not understand geopolitics is played by the who are up there in the hierarchy of power. And in the hierarchy of power, they have agendas and goals and aims that you are not consulted or taken into account. And I say here, and I can't remember if it was Meshach or someone who challenged me and said that, look, I say the Strait of Hormuz being closed on and off like that, this is controlled demolition of capitalism. And the moment you realize that it has a time frame, not 2 months, not a year, it probably take 2 or so years, COVID style. The same mandarins who are behind COVID-19 are the same mandarins who are behind this closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the trip by Trump to China. Can you imagine that? That they had a war to the point that, Trump said that we do not want to allow Huawei to be in the US. And they said, we want to buy TikTok from you. And, all those wars somehow, collapse, and they have, dinner and all of that conversation. Putin then goes to China and all of that. And, China says that you don't touch Taiwan. And, I'm going to withhold, not get off completely Iran. I mean, those are the sort of conversations that they have. So at the peak of the geopolitics, you have those games being played. And we will be just the minions suffering there. Now, if we do not comprehend or understand that, we'll play those games that, Meshach is saying, that, austerity is not possible. Austerity is possible and should be. A nation that does not learn by its leadership to live within or beneath its means will engage in the shenanigans that we have been thrown and cast into right now, and we are in danger of that getting deeper into that mire, because the attitude that is being adopted by the CS is that we will do nothing. So they continue with their field guzzlers. When the Kenyan people are walking, and you saw, excuse me, they had to oil the machinery of the economic production, and the government began feeling the pinch, and they said, no, look, we have summer to get back. And so they thinned that out a little bit. So that to them is supposed to be the ameliorating measure for them, but to the Kenyan people, we want to demand this chunk of taxes to be reduced and cut off. And to answer your question, Meshach should probably come to the realization that the Kenyan people do not want to fund state house lavish parties or lavish, refurbishment. Every other budget that you see, state house is being refurbished. The Nakuru State House is being moved, and that land is supposed to all over. And the question is now, when did the Kenyan people approve of that? So the moment that we as a people, the nation, does not accept that we need to live within our means, stop borrowing from the IMF, stop borrowing from the World Bank, stop these, and he said, and the CS confessed that, we now cannot access any Eurobond. That means that those doors are closed. So it teaches you, or at least it forces you to be inward looking. He says, will we engage in domestic borrowing? Stop domestic borrowing to engage in these sort of shenanigans. And for Meshach to say that, we will deny the supplier, or we'll deny that legal person. Come on, learn to live beneath your means, not just within, beneath your means. And as a nation, we have been sunk into this scenario by no other than the president. When you see himself hiring this private jet, and that we are hearing, and then we have heard nothing from the government. Hold on, I'm closing. We have not heard anything from the government spokesperson or even from the executive. Say, no, you people, you've heard about the former Swiss from Seychelles? No, come on, that's exaggerated. You've heard about the private bath, jacuzzi and all of that? No, that's not. Nobody has come to deny that. So to the Kenyan people, you see that you do not need that sort of luxury. You should be engaging in austerity measures. Right. Get a private jet now? Really? Why can't you send your CS to Baku? Azerbaijan to go and discuss about that. Why, for instance, do you have to engage in that
sort
of luxury spending?
Yeah, but already you must agree that government spending is at its highest. Even the comparison made, now that you insist on comparing the last two administrations, they said 90 billion shillings is what the Uhuru administration has spent in the entire 10 years. 90 billion is what this administration has spent in the last 4 years. There's something definitely happening with the State House refurbishment and all these things. But should we be engaging in that kind of expenditure at this time when we are squeezed? And he has gone on very well about the geopolitics that is beyond us. But should we just be victims without doing anything?
We will always remain victims.
No.
If it is geopolitics.
No, we cannot forever be victims. Allow me to correct you that. Because we have to take charge of our own destiny.
Right.
And the moment you take that, c'est la vie, que sera, sera attitude. What will be, will be. Please, Meshach, throw it on.
I'm coming to that. The reason why I'm saying that, Wakili, is Africa needs to work as Africa. We cannot remove ourselves as Kenya and elevate and go up there and achieve all those without the rest of Africa. For example, if we want to move away from this kind of conversation around fuel and everything, we must support people like Dangote to actually do the things they envision to do. And so we can have our own oil extracted from Africa, refined from Africa, and then the rest of Africa benefits from it. So if we have one in Nigeria, we have one in Angola, we have one in Mombasa and other parts of Africa, then the geopolitics can do their politics, but we will not always fall victim, because we can take a stand as Africa and say, this is our stand on those issues you're discussing, and if you don't like it, then forget about us. We will survive within ourselves. But if we don't have those, then we will have to bend low, because we still need survival. So the higher we go in terms of Africa doing business with itself, building our own infrastructure, including those refineries and everything, will take us away from that. But before we do that, we will be forced, our hands will be forced into some of these things. Coming to this, I wonder why this activism is coming out so passionately at this point in time, because we both know our budget, there's no day if our budget is 4 trillion today, 10 years later we will expect our budget to remain 4 trillion. We expect our budget will always go. You can talk about the budgets of Moi, the budgets of Kibaki, the budgets of Uhuru. They are not the same. Uhuru did not repeat the budgets of Kibaki. He moved us to a place where we are. And now we are here and expecting that nothing should increase. The cost of living globally is increasing. Uhuru left us at some point, even with different kind of infrastructures that Kibaki left. So Ruto is supposed to take us somewhere else, both in terms of development, and that means even the budget will move. The big question should be, over the period of time from Moi to Kibaki to Uhuru and now to Ruto, how much of accountability measures have we put in place, and is it working?
Okay.
That should be, to me, the biggest
I'll
question.
use an example still of State House, because I think that is one of the glaring things.
Yeah.
Even in this budget that we're still on, 2025-2026, the budget approved for State House at the beginning of the year was about 6 to 7 billion shillings.
Yes.
But before we come to the end of the year, that budget was doubled to about 17 billion shillings. What does that say about even our planning on expenditure? If at all there had been anything foreseen that State House would need a budget of 17 billion shillings, should then that have been discussed at the budget making process?
That's what
it is our spending that is that there is a problem with.
It is, but that is what takes us back. Are we really represented? Because that is the question Parliament should be discussing. Where is the president or executive getting this money that they are spending? Was it given by us in the budget? Was it appropriated by the committee and passed by the House? Because now it doesn't matter how much noise we will be making as Kenyans. We have the legal frameworks and how the processes that these things must go through. We need to go back to our members of Parliament and see whether they really represent us or not. And if we get to 2027 and we are choosing members of parliament because probably they painted some walls of schools very nice and that is enough for us, then we must be prepared to remain with this kind of misappropriations.
Yes. We seem to be having a rather lackluster level of discussion when it comes to the budget making process. Even the public participation, involvement, the level we had in 2024 of discourse around this process was way better. Kenyans appear least concerned about the process now. Yet this is what affects us, even when it comes to fuel prices. Why is that?
The disconnect between, I believe, the practical reality of what the outcome of any law is. Forget about a bill, finance bill, forget about that. Any law that is passed by Parliament, that disconnect between the bill in its theoretical format while it's being debated in Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate, and the practical outcome of it is something that with tremendous respect, members of Parliament miss on such an alarming frequent basis as to make them totally redundant and ineffectual to the Kenyan people. What do I mean? For instance, you have someone who sits in Parliament, he shoved a bill by the same mandarins I was talking about. You need to pass a climate change bill. But that climate change bill, they do not see that it is tied up to another agenda. They tell you that you have to forfeit the use of fossil fuels. And tied to that, you have to forfeit and do not even touch coal. Yet, as we speak today, on the 21st of May 2026, China is using coal. Did you hear a word of lamentation from the climate change mandarins and they who, harp in the climate change? They who accompanied, all these technocrats who accompanied Trump to China, none of them spoke about China using coal. But you will hear the same mandarins shoving their agenda through NGOs and telling you to don't touch the Kitui coal, don't touch the coastal coal. And they tell you because of climate change. So that member of parliament who sits there passing that regulation does not see that his own country is locked up in a certain economic stratum that they can never extricate themselves out of. And now come this issue of spending, like you ask. How is it that the members of the National Assembly allow State House to shift its budget allocation from what they had asked for, 7 billion, billion, not million. I'm trying to, I'm stuttering, trying to,
State House.
You see, no, hold on.
No, it's
the lack of leadership, because members of the National Assembly ought to be people who see that in the future, this is likely to affect us this way. And the moment you increase that to 17 billion from your 7 billion, you're telling me that you have had to fetch somewhere, somehow, 10 billion, and yet in my daily practical, news readings, I see capitation has been reduced or is not available, and I hear teachers' salary are not being paid on time, and I hear disbursement to the county governments are not being. Let me finish this point. The leadership problem that we have stems from above. Because if you have this leader who's given to opulence and display of opulence and the flexing of political muscle by means of trying to bribe and buy that allegiance, then we have missed the point in leadership. Right. And we need to get back to Article 73 of the Constitution and say that if you show allegiance to the Kenyan people, not foreigners, you have no business advancing these foreign agendas through legislation. Yes. And this needs to be interrogated.
Such kind of action that probably leads to this kind of lethargy among Kenyans. The fact that even if we take part in a public participation and say things and we agree that this is a budget and we're okay with that at some point through supplementary appropriations bills, you can change midway. And at the end of the day, all our public participation goes
down the Fred, two things quickly from me. One, I think Kenyans have not engaged properly on budget. What we always engage in is finance bill, the revenue measures, because
not the expenditure.
Because we fear that taxes will be raised and it will be punitive on us, which is okay, we need to engage. But we never properly engage on the budget-making processes, because even now, people are not talking about the budget. Even when Parliament talk about the proposals, budget proposals, Kenyans are not active until the revenue measures, the finance bill comes. Then we all of a sudden become very active because we don't want anything to do with taxes on us. I think we need to start engaging properly on what are we putting in this budget, because when public participations are done and it is about what we want, what roads we want, what kind of state house we want, what do we want, before we go to how do we now raise this revenue. Maybe we should start there and decide that we do not want a new state house. We do not want a new road. We do not want.
But who will speak for us?
We need to engage properly the same way we are engaging on finance bill, because we only go to engage when the question is where do we now get this money?
My question was, why are we not engaging at that level when it comes to budget estimates? Why are Kenyans reluctant to have that conversation?
I think this is just my opinion, and I may be wrong. I think we love engaging where politics is huge, because we want it is easy to do the politics with issues around tax, because you people will be taxed, you people are being taxed punitively, and then we all rise emotions and everything. But when people are just simple and calm talking about, do we need a new road? Do we need this Mau Summit? Do we need it? Or we don't need it? That one is a bit sober. It does not create any emotion. So no politician gets any credit out of it when we are not having high emotions. But when we get to the finance bill, where we are now talking about, how do we raise money to do this road? We can go back to now that 7 shillings that Ndindi Nyoro himself brought in the 2024 finance budget. Now we can rise, get our emotions rose, and then we talk about this government is taxing us too much, blah, 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 and all that. Coming to the issue that Wakili has raised, the international, the geopolitics, and how we are controlled, that one I agree with him 100%. We are still having some things being implemented in our countries that are probably not for us. The agenda is for other people, but Africa must be seen to be in it so that it is called global. Because how will you call it a global agenda if Africa, which is actually second in terms of population, is out of it? So Africa is having more than 1.4 billion now people. And so that's a big fraction of the population of the world. So for the agenda on the table to be called global, that fraction of population must be seen to be in it. And that is how whatever it is that is discussed at the back of the curtain must be brought on the table, and Africa must be brought. And that is why Kenya suffers a lot, because in the Eastern and Central Africa, they realize that Kenya holds a strong position, or it's a big market, including the economy of Kenya compared to the countries around us. So for that to be seen, sometimes it is easy when you bring a country like Kenya, it looks like East Africa are going to follow. So that one I agree with you, Wakili. At some point, there are agendas that we pass, which we clearly are not benefiting from, but some other people somewhere benefits from that agenda.
So and just a key distinction that when we talk about the budget making process, there are the budget estimates, which are proposals on the spending, that this is what we want to spend money on. We will find money somewhere, but this is what we want to spend money on. And that's what the executive wants to spend money, and how. Then there's an appropriations bill that comes immediately after that, now authorizing, giving authority to the government to actually withdraw money from consolidated fund to spend it the way they had said in their budget estimates. And then now finally the finance bill, which is much talked about, where focuses on revenue raising measures, taxes, duties and others.
That's when we get...
Now that's where we talk about.
But friend, there is the step which, and with tremendous respect, I think you skipped, the policy. I mean, like, we want to increase these taxes. The policy behind this is this and that and that. And that by law is supposed to be the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act, is supposed to be tabled. Kenyans are supposed to be, under the Constitution, any policy, any government policy, you're supposed to table it, have public participation, however unpalatable it is to the government functionaries, it is supposed to be tabled. So the lack of the policy, why, for instance, are you increasing these taxes in this class or on that class? And what is the policy behind these State House increments of appropriation every now and then? What is the policy behind it? That is often, in fact, almost invariably missed out, including this period, because the Kenyan people are supposed to be told, where we are headed to in the next 5 years, for instance, is this. And therefore, the finance bill is supposed to be taking that trajectory, supposed to be contributing this much for the achievement of that. We don't have that. And the ministry or the CS in charge of planning is supposed to be telling us, we have planned for this. What does the president do? Go on rooftops of vehicles and begin telling us, that market we're going to do. Even though Schedule 4, the Constitution tells him that is not your role or your domain. It's supposed to be the county government. And he tells you, now we have this and that dam to construct, and we don't see. And there's that stadia and whatever. So the long-term planning is totally out of sync with the budget making processes that we have. And in the end,
it's a planning problem.
There is a planning problem. And I don't want to blame anybody in the Treasury's planning department. Meshach has acknowledged, thankfully, that there is the external hand of the colonizer. And the colonizer has a primary objective that is, in my view, twofold. A, to advance their home agenda. Like we saw the French, Prime Minister, seeing that the dwindling, the shrunk space for them in West Africa and the Sahel region, they now want to come to East Africa and they want to engage the English-speaking nations using Kenya. And you've rightly pointed out, the springboard by means of which then to launch that program is a Kenyan space. So if we apprehend that the colonizer is coming with that in mind, the same way they did in the Berlin Conference, that they sliced up without the participation of the African, sliced up Africa in the way that they did and distributed African resources amongst themselves that way. And we had the railway in the name of development, creating the access to the interior, but it was supposed to channel out resources. So we have the European Union engaging instead, note, this is not a country, the European Union, instead of engaging the African Union, it comes over and engages Congo. Engages Kenya separately, engages Tanzania separately. The same fragmentation that happened during that period still is extended. So the budget making process invariably, and the Kenyan people ought to know this and understand this, that the same hand is out there to ensure that extraction of resources still goes on, which is why I wonder, this president he tells us, the coffee prices, usually we should not be lamenting about, the coffee prices, they have hiked, they've gone up. But look, Mr. President, show me your program and your plan for value addition. We should be having a coffee processing plant so that now the coffee buyer in California is able to come and get processed coffee from Kenya, grade AA, at the higher price than telling me to export that to New York, and allowing that person to come over to go to Nyeri to get the grade AA coffee. So I'm saying, in terms of leadership, in terms of planning, in terms of the interrogation, the interest of the Kenyan people is lacking. Allow me, Fred, to say this to the Kenyan people, that we need leadership. And as we go over to the 2027 period, a leadership that is able to articulate the Kenyan people vision of they themselves. Where do you want to be? You can no longer entertain and have the youth, the large swath of youth that goes unemployed. What are the plans for having them engaged and employed? And you cannot have these as long as you have poor leadership.
All right. Before we get to give your final comments, let's listen once more to Honorable Mbadi about this process. And he talked about so many things. It was mainly about the finance bill.
Thank you very much. First of all, when I got into this position, I made a promise to the people of Kenya that we will be as transparent, open as possible, especially on issues finance bill, because I was coming into office when finance bill had just caused instability in the country. That is finance bill of 2024, and we lost it for the first time in the history of this country. And I think we, from the Treasury, have lived to that. We have been more open, transparent. We have communicated to Kenyan from the beginning. And I want us to understand that finance bill is not something that we just create at the Treasury and bring to the people. A lot of this, whatever we put in finance bill, come from Kenyans themselves. There is engagement. We make advertisement and we ask for opinion and views. So Kenyans bring their suggestions, and my team at the National Treasury put together those suggestions. And when the suggestions are put together, then they are given to me, and each and every amendment to the bill, I sign off. And so I own every bit of any provision in that bill. Now, so what have we done? Because of the history and because of the experience of 2024, we took a decision that we are not going to increase the tax rates for Kenyans, because Kenyans have complained, and justifiably so, that the taxes that are being levied on them is too much, especially on income tax and other taxes. And therefore, if you look at this bill is very remote, if not zero, on any increase in tax rates. It is more on administrative measures. We are more on making tax collection, making efficient tax collection. A lot of Kenyans out there who have more ability than those who are paying taxes are not paying taxes. So we are looking for those ones.
Yes.
We are looking in a way, we are working on how to broaden the tax base. Broadening the tax base simply means bringing more Kenyans, more people to pay tax, so that those who are already paying taxes should not continue bearing the burden alone, but rather we reduce their burden and expand the tax base. So that is what this bill is doing. We have come up with many tax administrative measures, where we are targeting some personal income tax, who are people who are making money, but because they are not on payroll, they are not paying taxes. And there are many, and they are the ones who make huge amounts of money. We are also targeting people who are getting income and are just, in a way, the income is never seen. And even if they are seen, there is no legal framework to tax them. All those people we are bringing into the tax bracket. And the moment you bring those people into the tax bracket, you now have an opportunity to lower the tax rates. But I will tell you that this finance bill is not increasing the tax rates. I will go, I don't know whether this is the time you want me to demystify some of the mysteries.
Yes, we do have some of the myths, and of course Brian Farah on the other end is, had compiled a list of some of the proposals, and we would be tackling that.
CS Mbadi, John Mbadi, in charge of Treasury, during that town hall where he tried to explain what the finance bill of 2026 is all about. And we have those videos on our YouTube channel, TV47 Kenya. If at all you need to understand the finance bill better, kindly go to that YouTube channel and watch those videos. They will help you in making a decision on what your level of understanding, at least on the finance bill. Remember, we've talked about the different bits of the budget making process, the budget estimates. You've talked about the PMF Act, the policy behind it. What's the reasoning behind our plan for spending? Then the appropriations bill, which allows the government to withdraw money to go ahead and spend. And now the finance bill that the CS is talking about. Gentlemen, your final words on this process and on the other issues we've talked about, including the proposals to lower the fuel prices.
Thank you, Fred. I think my final comment will be this. Kenyans need to engage first when the budget proposals come, in terms of what the government is proposing to do for this financial year. And then it will be easy to now engage on how do we raise this money to actually do the things you all agreed should be done. That will ease our burden in terms of prioritizing what exactly should be done. For example, if we talk about a new state house here or there, we should engage at that particular moment and make it clear that we do not need a new state house, so that when we come to raising the funds, we do not have a new state house. We are raising the funds for the things that are dear to us and the things that we truly, truly want. The reason why, according to me, this thing will keep increasing is because budget is usually, there is no time that we spend and say we have closed the books on this budget, we are going into a new year. Because some of these projects that we actually like to see in our nation are continuous. Some of them are actually implemented in 4 or 5 budgets. So definitely, if this year we had a budget of building this road, and that road will not be built in one budget, it will spill to the budget of another financial year. So in another financial year, we will have a new thing coming up. So if we add that to this which spilled from the last budget, our budget will keep increasing. So that is what gets us to the point where today we have a 4 trillion budget. Tomorrow we might have a 4.1 trillion budget or a 4.2 trillion budget. So Kenyans need to understand that, even for purposes of knowledge, so that we don't keep asking questions. Why are we having a 4 trillion budget? It has to move like that. If I was paying school fees to my son last year, and 3 years later, I have another son which is joining school, it's not like I stopped paying for the other son. So my budget in the household will actually keep moving like that. So we need to accept that our budget will move. But the question or the main thing we need to engage in deeply is the spending. How do we ensure accountability for every shilling that is spent by any government? That will take us somewhere. But if we keep saying that we do not want this, we do not want this, we need to cut off this, we will not move as a country. We need to have them, but because they are bigger economies, talk about the Western world, they are paying more taxes than we do, their taxes are even higher, but they are satisfied because every penny that is used correctly. Okay. So the point around accountability is what we are still missing.
All right, thank you for that. Wakili?
Kenyans need, Kenyans need to assert and demand transparency in the budget-making process. And by that I mean every individual constituency's member of National Assembly, including their women rep, they ought to go back on the ground, spend no less than 7 days, no less, it could be 2 weeks, no less than, with the finance bill. Sit with the constituencies from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., engaging them all over that constituency so that they move from ward to ward and tell the Kenyan people in that particular constituency, because that will be the voice during the budget making process in the National Assembly, and they will tell that this has been agreed upon to be zero rated, or this has been agreed by my constituency to be tax exempt, or that we have agreed now, instead of this period of time accorded to under the finance bill, my constituents to pay or remit their taxes, it has been reduced. So unless that happens, you will still have a member of National Assembly show up during the voting period, and because they are just as blind as anybody can be to that bill, the contents thereof, and they will go and pass it, unless that happens. So there has to be accountability at that level. And at the leadership level, we have then to demand that at the very apex, at the presidential level, the president abandons this idea of, the Kenyans are up against him personally. They are up against him because he has failed in his leadership. And that the Kenyans themselves, their anger, their disillusionment with his policies are not because they hate him at a personal level. So he shouldn't personalize that. And the Kenyans demand that they want that we cannot put on hold our dreams while you leave your own. You're right now enjoying the lavish lifestyle of more than a TV star or a movie star, more than that lifestyle. And while you are letting the university students who have graduated without jobs or any to put on hold, to put on the deep freezer their ambitions and their goals, and you demand for them that they should engage in austerity measures when you are not. So that leadership has to change and has to shift. But the Kenyan people have to demand, and I should tell the president to allow the Kenyan people to express themselves and take it from them, not as personal criticism, but because he occupies the presidency. And the presidency in this instance is supposed to provide the ship to be steered in a way that this country is steady. At the moment, that finance bill in its contents, and I'm not going to go, and you've done good to tell the Kenyan people, they can go to YouTube channels, although I always say you should have your own platform. And
I'm saying YouTube, TV47.
No, I'm saying TV47. No, forget about YouTube. YouTube is a colonizer's platform, and they can always switch you off at will. So the Kenyan people ought to ask their member, that is my closing remark, the Kenyan people ought to ask, come to the ground, and you have the CDF money, make copies of these finance bill and avail it to us. We want to interrogate you, we want to send you with a message to the National Assembly.
All right. Thank you so much, Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui and political analyst Mesha Kodede, our panelist today. And thank you so much for that robust debate on matters to do with fuel prices, the proposals that are already before Parliament with regard to what should be cut from the raft of 9 different taxes that are imposed on a litre of fuel, petrol or diesel that comes to the country. And of course, this big conversation about the budget making process. What are we spending money on? Why do we want to spend money? And how are we going to get that money? That has been the conversation. Of course, there's this one that we have not been able to talk about. Is he simply a deputy president by name? Where has he been when we were discussing this and people are walking because of fuel prices? Where was he? They say he was in Tharaka Nithi, and we saw Dennis Itumbi and other people taking charge of that conversation. Is he deputy by name? Anyway, this is just one of the main headlines today. After the break, we switch gears, talk matters health. Dr. PJ Murioki will be in studio with Arno Dida discussing dental health in pregnancy and early childhood. And after that, Susan Karanja, an embryologist, will be talking about dealing with infertility. That is after the break. So much in store for you. My name is Freddie Ndemuli. Good morning.